He's one of the most enigmatic characters in all of Tolkien's world. An ancient being with untold power, he saves the hobbits from perils both natural and unnatural. While he's most known for his appearance in The Lord of the Rings, he would also feature in short tales, where he encounters various hobbits and various dangers. Today on Nerd of the Rings, we cover the life of Tom Bombadil. The origins and very nature of Tom Bombadil are unknown, though there are no shortage of theories. The clues we get come from Tom himself, who says he was there before the river and the trees. He remembers the first raindrop and the first acorn. His clues also tell us he lived in his very same forest before the elves marched from their awakening at Cuiviénen, long before the arrival of the exiles of Númenor and the evil spirits the Witch King would trap in the form of the Barrow-Wights. But earliest of all, Tom says he was there before the Dark Lord came from outside. This describes when Melkor descended into Arda, meaning that Tom has been around since before the Valar even came to the created world. While we've discussed what this could mean regarding Tom's nature before, we'll now turn to his known and lesser known adventures. These adventures, told in The Lord of the Rings and The Adventures of Tom Bombadil, offer a wonderful blend of the serious and comedic, as only Tom Bombadil could manage. In Tolkien's poem The Adventures of Tom Bombadil, we learn of the moment when Tom met his Goldberry. The verse begins with the famous "Old Tom Bombadil was a merry fellow. Bright blue his jacket was, and his boots were yellow." The very lines Tom is singing when he meets the hobbits. As he comes to the Withywindle River, within the Old Forest, his beard hangs over the water, when Goldberry, described as the river woman's daughter, pulls him in. After Goldberry returns to her mother's house, Tom takes a nap by Old Man Willow, who captures him in his roots. Tom tells the tree to go back to sleep, and Old Man Willow lets him go. Tom continues to have encounters with various creatures that either capture or otherwise antagonize him. Badgers, birds, fish, and even a Barrow-Wight. All in turn obey Tom when he orders them. The final portion of the poem tells of the following morning as Tom returns to Goldberry and asks her to marry him. They have a merry wedding, attended by the creatures of the Old Forest. A second poem featuring Tom is called Bombadil Goes Boating, and while it is among many things to be recorded in the Red Book after the War of the Ring, it likely refers to events long before Bilbo's 111th birthday. The story goes that one autumn day, Tom goes boating down the Withywindle, making his way to the Brandywine to meet some hobbits. Along the way, he meets various creatures, until he comes to a small landing called the Grindwall, where he leaves his boat. After being teased by some Bucklander hobbits, who shoot 3 arrows in his hat, Tom eventually meets Farmer Maggot while walking along the causeway. After joking with one another, Farmer Maggot brings Tom back to his home, where Tom meets the Maggot family. The two talk through the night about news and gossip from the area, of the Barrow Downs, the Tower Hills, tales from Bree, and even the Dunedain Rangers and the Nazgul. When morning comes, Tom has mysteriously vanished. His boat even still sits at the Grindwall, until 3 days later when otters and other animals decide to pull the boat back near Old Man Willow, though they accidentally leave behind the oars. While these poems are lighthearted, whimsical, and comedic in tone, they do give us a bit of insight into Tom Bombadil and the hobbits. We are told both of these poems come from Buckland, pointing to the fact that Tom was more well known among these hobbits than the general Shire population. Still, it's likely they had little to no understanding of Tom's power or nature. They view Tom much like the hobbits view Gandalf, mysterious, benevolent, unpredictable, but also a little comedic. As for Tom's involvement in the War of the Ring, perhaps slightly more serious in tone, that tale begins on September 26, 3018. Merry, Pippin, Sam, and Frodo had been traveling through the Old Forest, and like Tom before them, Merry and Pippin had been captured by Old Man Willow. Fortunately, Jolly Tom was searching for water lilies for Goldberry at the time, and rescued the hobbits, in a similar way that he once saved himself from the tree's clutches. They travel east with Tom to his house and would stay there for 2 nights. The fact that Tom had once stayed at Farmer Maggot's house goes well with what we are told in the Hobbit's visit. Earlier, Merry had said Maggot would go into the old forest, and that the farmer knew a good many strange things. Here, Tom speaks highly of Farmer Maggot, saying he owes most of his recent knowledge of the Shire to him. It's said that Tom seems to regard Maggot as a person of more importance than the Hobbits had previously imagined. During their time in the house of Tom Bombadil, the mysterious being tells the Hobbits many tales and songs. Eventually, he would convince Frodo to tell him of the ring. Tom puts the ring on himself and does not disappear, to the amazement of the halflings. He then takes the ring off, flips it into the air, and makes the ring itself disappear. This alarms Frodo before Tom produces it once more. Later, Frodo would put on the ring, but Tom would call to him, revealing that he could see Frodo while he was invisible to others. This tells us that Tom has a presence in the unseen world, just like other beings like wizards, Nazgul, Sauron, and some of the most powerful elves. Tom bids Frodo to come back to sit with the group, saying his hand was much fairer without the ring. The next day, the Hobbits set out from Tom's house as he gives them words of caution about the Barrow Downs. He also teaches them a song they should sing should they get into trouble. And when the Hobbits come under attack by the Barrow-Wights, Frodo sings the song, and Tom comes to the rescue. He chases off the Barrow-Wight with the song, breaking the spells upon the barrow in which the Hobbits had been captured. After returning the Hobbits' ponies, he looks through the treasures held within the barrow. Most he leaves in a pile, free to all finders, for no wight would ever return to it. From the treasure he grabs 4 daggers, one for each of the Hobbits. These daggers were forged by the Dunedain of Cardolan during their war against the Witch King of Angmar. This particular barrow was the tomb of the last prince of Cardolan, who died in 1409 of the Third Age. One of these blades would ultimately fulfill its purpose, as Merry would help in finally defeating the Witch King. Aside from the barrow blades, Tom takes a blue jeweled brooch for Goldberry, which likely once belonged to the wife of the last prince of Cardolan. Tom would send the Hobbits on their way once again, advising them to make for the prancing pony in Bree. They would meet Strider at the end before it is attacked, likely by men serving the Nazgul. In the attack, the Hobbits' ponies are driven off, leading them to take Bill the Pony on their journey to Rivendell. Meanwhile, Merry's ponies return to the house of Tom Bombadil, for they had apparently remembered the care they were given there. For a time, they would be cared for alongside Tom's own pony, Fatty Lumpkin. While the Hobbits are on their journey, Tom returns the ponies to Barlam and Butterbur at the Prancing Pony and returns home. Tom would be brought up once again during the Council of Elrond. Elrond and his chief counselor Eristor noted that perhaps Tom should have been present at the council. Gandalf replies that Bombadil wouldn't have come, and that he was possibly not fully cognizant of the struggle of light and darkness, and that unlike others believed, it wasn't a matter of Bombadil having a power over the ring, but rather the ring had no power over him. When the idea is pitched that they could send the ring to Bombadil for safekeeping, Gandalf says he would soon forget it or even throw it away. Such things simply have no hold on his mind. In the end, Glorfindel says that regardless, Tom Bombadil would likely fall to Sauron should the worst come to pass, and Tom, who was once among the first to wake, would be the last to fall. While the elves talk about him during the council, it's worth noting that Tom was known to other beings as well. Like the elves, the Dunedain know him as Iarwain ben Adar, which means oldest and fatherless. We also learn the Rohirrim call him Orald, meaning very ancient, and the dwarves call him Forn, meaning belonging to ancient days. The fact that he was known to other races in Middle-earth begs the question, did Tom Bombadil at some point in his long history come into contact with each of these races? Being in Eriador, the elves would no doubt make sense, and it's possible dwarves passing through Eriador could come across the Jolly Fellow. The Rohirrim, however, are the most intriguing option to dwell on, regarding how he came into their tales and history. The last we hear of Tom Bombadil comes in the final stages of the Hobbits' return journey. While Merry, Pippin, Sam, and Frodo go on to reclaim the Shire, Gandalf goes to Old Tom's house, where he would spend the next 2 years in conversation with the mysterious Bombadil. What these great and powerful beings discussed for that amount of time, we can only guess. Tom Bombadil would live on in previously mentioned Hobbit poems, and would also inspire Sam's made-up protagonist in his poem, The Stone Troll. With Sauron defeated at the end of the Third Age, Tom and Goldberry are left to live in their home in the Old Forest for the ages to come, their later days being just as mysterious as their first. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters who make this channel possible. Tom Bombadil 19, Listen Me the Cinda, Celebrimbor, The Mighty Mim, Team Weasel, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Charles Leisure, Toby Mob's Music, CCDC Red Team, Nerd Sidgeman Anytimer, Pelkey Sports Cards, Mookie the Brown, Christopher Carbaugh, Joe Tepper, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Salim Rahman, Zetrock, Berto Berg, Grand Strategy Nerd, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Michael Wu, Grant McGregor, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description and purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.